It is upon us, the top of the 8 o'clock hour, and with it, the ability with the closing of polls to make our very first projections. We start in the state of Pennsylvania, upper left. We are projecting that when all the votes are counted, Donald Trump will be the victor. Not only the victor, a significant victory tonight for Donald Trump in the Pennsylvania primary. In the state of Maryland, on the GOP side, we're projecting that when all the votes are counted, Donald Trump will be the victor there. Again, a significant victory for Donald Trump, as it will be in Connecticut. As the voting heads up in New England tonight, 2 states up there voting, Donald Trump our projected winner. And on the Democratic side, a significant victory being projected for Hillary Clinton, as expected, in the state of Maryland. Those are the only races of all of the races, both parties, 5 states, that we can project at this hour.
So that's what's interesting is what's not on this board on the Republican side. Too early to call still in Delaware and in Rhode Island. And on the Democratic side, everything except Maryland.
Yeah, I want to see Democrat Rhode Island. That'll be interesting.
That is going to be very interesting. That's the one state that we've seen polling in the last week that had Bernie Sanders ahead. There was a PPP poll that had Bernie Sanders +4 in Rhode Island. There's a lot of moving parts in Rhode Island for such a small state. You remember Maricopa County, Arizona, they had those huge long lines after they closed 70% of their polling places. Having watched Maricopa County do that a few weeks ago, the state of Rhode Island decided to do that tonight. They closed 70% of their polling places for this race tonight. We have no idea what kind of effect that's going to have. There's only been those couple of polls. One showed Clinton up, one showed Sanders up. We've had no polling at all in Delaware. But again, Delaware, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania, and Connecticut, all too early to call on the Democratic side. And that's just going to be, there's a lot of suspense. This is going to be an interesting night to see how this works out.
Robert Costa covers politics for the Washington Post and often joins us right at moments like this from the Washington Post newsroom. Robert, we can call this already early in the evening a significant night for Donald Trump.
Ryan, these are sweeping victories for the Trump campaign, going across the Northeast, the Acela corridor, as many insiders are calling it. And this really underscores Trump's strength as he moves toward the convention. He's winning over, in states like Pennsylvania, suburban voters who have long been skeptical of Trump, as well as the rural voters in the center of the state. And he's looked across the map in the New England as well. These are places where Trump early on had strength, like in states like Massachusetts, and where he continues to do the same.
And Robert, some prognostication from you. What about the states that are outstanding? We have them all listed as too early.
Too early, a lot of that's because we haven't seen exit poll data yet emerge from those states. And what we're looking at in those states is a Republican electorate in a blue state, a Democratic state, in a general election that has a heavily conservative core on its Republican side.
Exactly what we laid out at the start of the evening.
You know, it's a very good point. Talking about these as blue states, Robert's absolutely right there. You look at the margins of victory in the general elections in these states that are voting tonight. In Maryland, 2008, 2012, 25, 26-point wins for Obama. Connecticut, 22 and 17-point wins. Delaware, 25 and 19-point wins. In Rhode Island, Obama won in 2008 and 2012, both times by a 28-point margin. The only one where it was even in single digits was Pennsylvania, where Romney got within 5 points in 2012. But these are blue states. And the fact that Pennsylvania was even approaching the status of a swing state, I think, makes the Pennsylvania victory for Donald Trump all the more important in terms of trying to think about him as a general election nominee for the Republican Party. But mostly what we're looking at here is extrapolating a minority Republican electorate that's not used to winning anything in these states, finally having a chance to have an impact on a really, really big decision.
Before we are joined by our studio family, Nicole Wallace, Eugene Robinson, Chuck Todd, watching from Center City, Philadelphia, in a critical state tonight. Chuck, what do you make of it so far?
Well, I wanted to follow up on what you guys were talking about here, because there's another pattern we've noticed in the political unit here with Trump. The weaker the Republican Party is in a state, the less successful it is, the better Trump does. The more successful a Republican Party is in a given state, for the most part, the better the shot that Cruz has had. So that's why, for instance, they feel so good about Indiana. That's why they won in Wisconsin. But look at what Trump has done in states that have Democratic governors in primaries. I think he's going to sweep it again tonight. 4 of these 5 are Democratic governors here. And so far in states with Democratic governors, Trump has not only won, but in most cases he's won big. It's as if Republican voters in those states are saying, you know what? The establishment has done nothing for us here. We're trying the outsider. So Trump has more strength in those states.
Chuck, when you extrapolate from that, or can you extrapolate from that to general election prospects for a Donald Trump candidacy?
Not at all. And can I just say, not at all. This is, remember all those urban counties, all those blue counties that Mitt Romney carried? I mean, I think you brought it up in 2012 during these primary nights at Santorum, Romney would win Cuyahoga.
Yeah.
Wow. Did we really think that was going to translate? I mean, this doesn't extrapolate at all. Barack Obama dominated the Deep South in 2008. Did he carry? I think Alabama was one of his better states. How did he do in Alabama in general election?
Right,
I mean, this is a waste of our energy to try to extrapolate.
We have what the results we went through at the top of the 8 o'clock hour, the races we have already called, meaning projected. All other races too early to call. Let's get some reaction from, in order, Hugh Hewitt, Nicole Wallace, and Eugene Robinson. Hugh, out to you in Irvine, California. What do you make of the news thus far?
Doesn't necessarily translate to a national story, but it's going to be important in terms of understanding how this goes down tonight between Sanders and Clinton.
This is Jupiter, Florida. These are live pictures. You may see the hair, the instantly recognizable hair from the center of that shot. There is actually a red carpet at this event for VIP guests of the Trumps to stop and be photographed by the press corps, not unlike a screening or a premiere or one of them high-class parties where guests come in and have their photo taken against a Trump background. Katie Tur is somewhere in that scrum of still and moving photographers, and here is what's in the adjoining room. Note on the far left of the podium shot, you can just see the bottles of Trump water.
We expect
and
this is amazing.
Many of the consumer products called out by Mitt Romney are going to be on display. There's more of it to the right. But it is part of what you deal with when you are GOP challengers of the leading candidate who is a reality star, who is a brand name, and who enjoys 100% name recognition in this country. We've never seen any aspect of this race before. We are now within 30 seconds of those 4 stalwart counties in the UP, the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, the non-oven mitt-shaped part of Michigan, where the polls will close, and that allows us, even though we have raw vote in, to characterize the race. So now it's 59-50 in these last 10 seconds. We will show you. The polls are closing now. We'll show you where Michigan fits in all of it. And yet politically, here's where it fits at 9 Eastern time. Donald Trump has swept the first 2 states. Our projection from MSNBC and NBC News is that when all the votes are counted, your winner tonight in the Michigan primary will be Donald Trump. On the Democratic side, our race is too early to call. 30% of the raw in. Bernie Sanders leading 51% to Hillary Clinton's 48. These are the results from earlier, so you have a sweep so far on the GOP side for Trump. Hillary Clinton, the projected winner, heavily in Mississippi tonight. And there is more specific wording on this GOP race. In addition to our projection that Donald Trump will win, we are saying, we are saying Cruz and Kasich are vying for second. Rubio trails far behind. Rubio trails far behind. We'll let you know when that status changes.
And again, that's very specific wording chosen not by us to describe results. This is from the elections unit, and they don't go out of their way to make elaborations like this unless it's very clear to them that they can. And so once again, what we're looking at here for Michigan, for Marco Rubio to be described as far behind as Kasich and Cruz vie for second. That far behind characterization from Marco Rubio is yet more bad news for him. We don't know exactly where the standings are going to come in down ticket tonight. We do know that Donald Trump has won both of these states so far. We spoke with Marco Rubio's communications director live on the air earlier in this broadcast, and he suggested that Hawaii might be a place that Marco Rubio could win tonight. We still have Idaho and Hawaii ahead, but just in delegate counts, in terms of when people go to bed in most of the country, and in terms of the distance between the expectations for Marco Rubio and how he has been able to perform in major states, he really looks quite dead in the water. His campaign wants you to think that Florida is the only thing that matters. Ultimately, when you're saying that only your home state matters, that's not a position of strength from which to be